understand it's to do with Captain Hamilton's statue, and I want to know if anyone had a hammer in the house so they could finish the job. Oh, no, I'm not supposed to say things like that. Bugger. You're right there. Okay. On to the Access Hamilton Task Force. Eva Lisa's here. Are you doing it from up here, Eva? Oh, no, Robin's been hiding down the back. I didn't see you, sorry. So Robin's going to do that page through to the road deaths on the next page, yeah. So we'll do the, so all of page 99 through to the top paragraph of 60, 100, sorry. Yeah, Robin.
Okay, so afternoon councillors. So the Access Hamilton Task Force has had several meetings since the last Growth and Infrastructure Committee. As you can see in clause 51, there's a wide variety of topics that we work our way through. Key information for councillors, discretionary transport program. Now I need to make an apology here. Attachment 4 in your agenda papers is wrong. No. But I have circulated the correct attachment, and that is also now on OneDrive for you as well. So that has the list of projects that we're working our way through currently. And will be progressively delivering over this financial year. It's expected that that list will change throughout the year as various other projects pop up, and we work through the consultation on some of those ones, and there might be some changes, so that's for your information.
Just a word on the task force, which was said I'd mention here, sorry, is that every councillor is entitled to attend and welcome to attend the task force, and you should all be getting notice of that. I know Angela came to the last meeting, so if you're not, feel free to come and participate. It's not, while we've technically got a membership, we don't operate it like that.
Thank you. So as part of the Access Hamilton Task Force, that is now picking up and covering the parking activities, and I'm going to hand over to Eva Lisa, who's been attending those meetings, just to run through those items.
So look, actually, why don't we just check whether there's any questions on that first bit. There isn't any on the Access Hamilton and discretionary transport program. No? Okay. Far away.
So in terms of the parking task force, following the 10-year plan, we had our first task force meeting on the 1st of August in terms of the parking task force, and where a report was delivered in terms of the parking technology and just confirmation that the parking task force was to be merged with the Access Hamilton Task Force. So the parking task force meeting on the 1st of August was the final meeting of that particular task force. So it is being merged into Access Hamilton. In terms of staff are working towards making sure that the information provided in terms of financials, due to the reporting timeframes for this committee and the previous committee, we were unable to get up-to-date financials, so we're hoping to get that aligned to the growth and infrastructure reporting and the parking task force, so there is up-to-date information regarding the CBD 2-hour free trial, and also to at the next task force there's a confirmation of the principles for that continuation of the trial for the next 12 months. Okay,
we've got Gary first, thanks. So, just on the parking related ones.
That's right, yeah. Sweet. Okay, so there's we won't have any loss of visibility on the, because I'm very concerned about that, well, as I've told you, you all know this, I'm very concerned about the financials on the parking trial. So I just want to make sure that, because it has been difficult getting figures out from, and I don't think it's anyone's fault, but just maybe I've been expecting different timing and different disclosure, but it has been difficult getting comparisons of what we would have earned, what we haven't earned and what we've lost and those sort of things. I appreciate there are other benefits of the trial, but I just want to get real accuracy on what it is costing the ratepayers.
Still got to come through this committee.
Yep.
And do you want to talk about what we discussed that the other
So
day?
you alluded to the financials then, so just
Yes.
when will the next bunch of accurate, clear financials come out?
So the financials that have been reported through to the G&I committee in April and I believe it was May or the
Yeah,
previous,
end of May,
and that came to the Growth and Infrastructure Committee. We're aiming to keep those consistent so that we're not getting multiple types of financial reporting.
So you can do comparisons.
Apples with
Yes,
apples.
so we're making, so that's something that we talked about and will be discussing at the Parking Task Force, or at the Access Hamilton Task Force on the 7th of September, just to confirm the financials and the clarity of making sure they are consistent reporting through this committee. So not to lose visibility, but also to give them
And
a
not to lose comparability either. Yeah.
and not comparability.
And
Yes,
they will
correct.
then come through the same GM's report to
Okay.
this
Yes.
meeting
Thank you.
next time. Okay, any other questions on parking ones? If not, we'll go to the road deaths, which we've sort of discussed. Is there more you want to add to that, Robin?
No, I don't have anything more to add.
The one thing that did come up when we were talking about it last week and also at the Regional Transport Committee yesterday, the figures supplied from the national statistics to our council and to the regional council seem to be different slightly, and we're just trying to hunt that down through the Regional Transport Committee at the moment, Robin, so that what you say is also what they say.
That's correct. I think you'll find the reporting through Regional Transport Committee is when they get notification from the police. We are waiting until the information is entered into the crash analysis system and that the police have made that final decision as to whether it is actually counting as a road crash or not. We have one crash that's occurred where it's been put down, we believe, down to a health issue rather than being a road crash. So sometimes that takes a little bit of time to work through. Correct, yes. So that's where we've got a slight difference as to whether we count that in our road death total or not.
And there was complications, like if the person having a heart attack, for example, if their vehicle hits someone else's vehicle, they may not be counted in the stats, but the person in the other vehicle, if they're injured, or would be. So it's a little bit hard to get your head around sometimes. Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing. Oh, sorry, Leo. Sorry.
Yeah, just the one there, Robin, for Tower Street.
Yes,
Have you counted that as a fatality, have we?
yes, we understand that it is
Shouldn't be.
because the car park
It
was,
shouldn't be because it's not on a road.
because it's a public space, and we've had this previously where we
So
had a
have I,
person
many
in
a
a
time.
council car park, so yes.
It's a council car park.
We've
It's
had,
a public
sorry, and
access.
previously. This one isn't, but we've had one in a supermarket car park, sorry, in the past.
Yeah,
that
that's a
has
bit
been
different
counted.
because public have got access, whether right or not.
Well, Leo, I asked Marcus about exactly that point, and Marcus Lynham, your friend, who does the new soft policing, and he said, yeah, it's a public thing, they don't have any choice on that,
No, can't agree.
because it's open to the road and the public can walk there because it's a business, not a private residence. That was his explanation,
Yeah, it's the same as a farm accident and all that, so.
Just identify that those ones on the margin, just identify them.
Well, I
and
think
then-
that's why the description helps, Gary, you know, not trying to be smart here. That's the purpose there, so we can say, yes, there are 5, but 3 of them were in private car parks because whatever. Yeah, so we can't, I mean, officially, this is what we're getting, Robin's getting told. So we have to do it, and that description is taken from those official descriptions anyway.
Correct.
Yeah. If there's oh, sorry, Gary, did you have anything else?
So, just want to make sure, does this link in with our, and I can't remember what we called it, but our zero
Vision
goal?
Zero.
Yeah, Vision Zero, yeah. So this is our reporting against Vision Zero, is it?
Yes.
Is this how we report against it?
Yes,
Okay.
I guess it's creating an awareness of where we are at with our road deaths. The difficulty we have for the serious injuries is it takes quite a long time to get into the system. So we have got the 2017 data, but we don't have 2018 data for the serious injuries.
Okay. So just and I'm going to misquote this to hell, we did the Vision Zero target.
Yep.
Because we wanted to be aspirational, we wanted to drive towards that, which is all things that I can agree with. But I think there wasn't many, a couple of us disagreed with because we knew that it was an and I'm not trying to politise this thing. Yeah.
I think, Gary, it was also to inform or to guide the funding allocations in the LTP, for instance. It wasn't the only thing, and what you're saying is right too. And so there's a whole lot of safety programs in the Access Hamilton transport improvement side of things. So what you'd want to see is longer term, looking at it going down in all ways towards that aspirational target. I think is sort of how we looked at it. If you look at it just point today, no, we're not successful.
Yeah, no one takes any pride in that. But just how does it change our behaviour? You know, ours as a regulator and as a owner of the roads and all of our, to the extent we can influence things, how does it change what we do?
Robin, do you?
Certainly from my perspective, I've been talking even to the guys who are out there doing the road marking, moving signs, those sorts of things, just to be really clear that anything that you do out on that network actually makes a difference to achieving the Vision Zero. Okay. So keeping those basic sort of things, and then as Councillor Dave talked about, it's helped us be really successful through the National Land Transport Program to get some really good funding initiatives into some safety projects, such as your Thomas Gordonton's and those sorts of things. So it is very much a journey. Unfortunately, we can't say Vision Zero and it appears. If we could achieve that, that would be fantastic. But the reality is that it's going to take investment in all of our actions, whether that be basic maintenance work, whether it's working with our communities and raising their awareness around it, and then the actual engineering work that we're out there doing as well.
So is it a target that we actually hold anyone to account for? Because most of our KPIs, we hold someone to account for them.
I don't think it's in any one particular performance review process, but
see, that's the problem. Yes. I reckon it's just it's a lovely idea, and no one would dispute that. But in terms of using it as a management tool or as a way of critiquing people's performance, I don't think it has any. Anyway, we've had that debate before, so it just doesn't seem to me to be.
Thanks, sorry, Gary. It's because it says Henry and then it says Councillor Siggy. Sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you, Mr. Chair. Well, just following on from what Councillor Gary said was last year at the Treffens, there was this guy from Sweden talking, and he was talking, they had Vision Zero for many years, and it took a long time to really take effect, and now the road deaths are quite low, isn't it?
Yes, and I think it does take a while to start thinking differently, and there was some work done a little while ago about, what is an acceptable road toll, and people are happy to put a number up until you ask them, and who from your family are you happy to have in that road toll? And most people do not want friends and family involved in that, and actually if everyone takes that stance, then the answer becomes zero.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Mark, thanks.
Thank you, Dave. So Vision Zero, because it's, I want to follow along from Siggy and Gary there actually. It's rather than just being an aspirational nice to have, there are some cities who have actually really practically implemented it, right? Some of the biggest, like being New York and the likes, haven't there? So do you know any others who have?
No, but I think that's a piece of work that we really need to get into and really understand some of those key things that we need to be doing and those conversations that we all need to be having in a work environment, in our social environment and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of opportunities, and the government's indicating that they also are moving towards Vision Zero, and the Associate Minister certainly wanting to see that sort of language and those sorts of discussions happening as well.
Thank you.
Gary again, just,
Did you say that New York City has got 0 road deaths?
They've got zero, Vision Zero principles, basically,
Oh.
and they've dropped their road toll by enormous amounts. Yeah, but I just was trying to extract actually by how
Oh,
many. But there are cities who have got 0 deaths.
okay, sorry, just want to keep moving if that's all right. Thanks very much, Robin. We're on to the Waste Task Force update, which Māori and Trent are here for, and then Project Watershed. Trent.
All right. Afternoon. Just by update for the Waste Task Force. There's been 2 meetings since the last GNI committee. The main items that have been discussed at the Waste Task Force, firstly was the new rubbish and recycling service review. So that was really just an update on negotiations, including aspects around the gate fees that we were looking to include within the negotiations, and also just around a summary of the business case that was presented to Council on the August 16th. The other aspect of the task force was the waste management and minimisation plan and just actions that were coming out of that, and also just a request for a future task force that we would be reporting against progress against the plan and providing an update and also bringing that through to this report, GM report.
So Thursday the 9th of September should be Thursday the 6th, should it?
Yeah, no, actually it should be Friday the 14th.
Okay.
We don't know how that actually ended up that way, but
It's my eyes, I should check them better. Okay, thanks, Trent. Any questions? Oh, it's Gary, sorry.
Paragraph 63A, the principles are incentivising diversion is important. That's diversion to landfill, is it?
division, yeah, away from landfill.
Sorry, away from the diversion
Yeah,
from
yeah,
landfill,
yeah.
yeah, diversion to landfill. Okay. So that means it's going somewhere else.
So a lot of what we were looking with that statement was around between the 2 sites. So we've got the organic centre where all the green waste
Yep.
is going. So we obviously want to encourage people to go to the organic centre with the green waste rather than the RTS for landfilling those.
Okay.
So it's making sure that the gate fees are comparable.
Okay, sorry, that's in the context of the gate fees, yep, good point.
Okay. Thanks very much, Trent. Good stuff. Okay, Project Watershed funding. Sorry, you might need to introduce
Yep.
yourselves to us. Yeah.
I'm Adam Donaldson. I'm the Waters Operations Manager for the Waters Unit.
Hi, Adam.
And I'm Lee Corns, the Project Leader for Natural Environments.
Hi, Lee. Hi, Adam. Yeah. So, okay, look, if you'd like to introduce it, and then we'll go to questions. Or are you?
So if I can through the chair, in terms of this paper was requested by council to come to this committee to understand how Project Watershed works and the budgets that are spent. So today, in lieu of a detailed report, we have brought the team here in terms of that are spending Project Watershed money on particular projects within Hamilton City Council that we believe elected members would like to hear about or would like to know about, but we're also wanting in future reports to actually bring back more detailed information. So in regards to the catchment committee progress and information, so provide some updates which Councillor Southgate is the elected member representative of, to provide more information to this committee to understand what's being discussed and to show Hamilton's, I guess, the projects that have been completed and the financial spend that is occurring in the city in regards to the Project Watershed funding allocated to us.
Through you, Mr Chair, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sorry, did you want to say anything more? You just going to do questions, Adam and Lee?
I'm happy to answer questions
Yeah.
as long as, yeah.
Yep. Okay, Paula, you first.
I just wanted to
Paula,
check.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Just wanted to check because I sent a report pretty much within hours of finishing the meeting, so everybody did get that, yes?
The email, yeah.
Yeah, I emailed it, so that is what I've done commonly, and that's what I'll intend to do. I think the way we can probably improve that is some co-drafting of the report with staff and political
It might be
people.
an annual stock take or something.
Yep.
Yes, so that's something that, in terms of this committee, we can bring back an annual report on the project watershed
Yeah.
funding.
Yeah, and the iterative process through you, Mr. Chair, whereby I can lend political support on the day to the right projects, which I think I did, but it's formalising that process. I mean, we did talk about the erosion in the riverbank and other things as well, but it's having that more formalised conduit between council and me as their representative on that, which I'd feel comfortable with. And one question of staff, maybe it was worth explaining to council, you've done the funding in the paragraph here, but there was some commentary around the use of reserve in the watershed fund. Might be worth touching on today. Thanks.
So there's a reserve that's been built up, are you saying? Over...
But you know the details.
There's two reserves. There's an HCC reserve and also a Waikato Regional Council held reserve. So there's two reserves.
Yeah. So I don't know the state with the HCC, but the Waikato Regional Council Reserve grew quite large, and my understanding from the last meeting is that they have, by resolution, agreed to spend down that reserve to bring a lot of work forward, yeah?
That's right, yes.
So you mean there's the WRC reserve is also for Hamilton?
It's for the overall central catchment, and a portion will be
Hamilton and wider
allocated.
area.
Yeah.
But not the whole of the Waikato?
No, just
The central zone.
central zone. It just goes past Cambridge a little and up that way a little. It's quite contained. It's the smallest zone.
So if I'm looking at 76 right here, the majority, 2/3, say, of the money collected in that central zone is actually collected from Hamilton ratepayers.
Correct.
Okay, and that's the same every year. It might be different dollar amounts for the same proportion, and that's what. So, which part goes into the reserve if it's not spent? Just the 287 into one reserve and the balance into another reserve. What happens?
I can't speak for the City Council Reserve.
So these stated budgets will be reflective of the HCC budget. Okay. So obviously, if these aren't spent, they'll then be held in an HCC reserve. Oh. However, there's a $1 million odd entire zone fund, which is a WRC held budget, which isn't spent, will be held in their reserve.
How do you decide which Hamilton City projects go forward?
It's very similar to our annual plan process. We'll submit that at a given time prior the financial year. To Regional Council.
Oh, okay.
And they'll accept it based on the content of the program and the funding that's going to be allocated to those projects or programs within the annual
So they
year.
are having the final say over the spending within the city as well as within the central zone?
For the works that we undertake on behalf of WRC, correct.
Right. And they hold all the money, whether it's the city reserve or the wider reserve?
Yes.
Yeah, and get the interest from it. Okay. I was just trying to work out how it works. So each year, who makes the decision about what projects you put forward? What if, say, if a project came up at council, we wanted to stabilise a riverbank because it was, collapsing a path or something like that. Who do we say we think that's a project watershed responsibility, and we're sending it to XY committee? How does that work?
Yes, so if it sits within the scope under the SLA, then obviously would follow the process and ultimately would put a case forward to the Regional Council for their, assessment and approval.
But how does the council know? I'm talking about
this council?
Yeah. How do we know whether something qualifies, whether it's even there's money in the kitty that could do it and all that sort of stuff?
My only assumption here would be around our delegate on the catchment committee, because obviously there's input there. So,
but surely there should be a formal way of the city council proposing something to that committee.
Exactly what I'm saying. Since and I have raised this with the mayor on a number of occasions, that there's a little bit of a void between me and governance decisions. Having said that, you're right, it's a planning process done over a long infrastructure period and negotiated through the Central Catchment Committee, to which we submit and do detailed submissions at that, very detailed submissions about what the priorities are. So it's not completely lack of input, but you're probably correct to say, Dave, that there isn't enough awareness at a governance level of, and I go and I send my report, I'm not even sure who reads it, there's no sort of...
Maybe there should be at the time we do the annual plan, or every 3 years the LTP, there should be a hook or a call up, watershed projects, and we have a look at that. It's like we would with fees and charges or some of those other things that only get raised if there's an interest. So at least
it's an
on the
iterative
agenda.
process, however, because it's a little bit similar to the Regional Transport Committee, where you are a member and entitled to input, but how it rumbles out at the end might not necessarily be all of what you want. It'll be a process over the entire catchment based on priorities. So yeah, we do need to be more politically with the guidance of the staff. It's the staff here that decide what the priorities are based on what you believe are the most important
Yeah,
things.
well, I mean, that should come, I would have thought, as a report then to this committee.
Which is what I kind of been trying
recommendations
to
from
drive.
staff, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then there's visibility for us, and we can question you about X, Y project and be happy with it. Please send that off to the regional council. So,
Yep.
but we just need to probably, is that an annual thing, or does it happen all through the annual?
Yes, it is.
So we could pick a time when that would come forward here, and enough time for you to get the paperwork done and regional council make its decision.
Yeah, so I think this is worthy of an update session rather than just an item session at some stage at the right time to understand, because there's a lot of complexity in it. There's the assets, the water management assets, flood control, erosion, all that kind of thing, but there's also all the biodiversity, ecology, water ecology and other
Yeah, but I still
attributes.
think that if that's a proposal from the city council, and someone says to us, why did you support X and not Y?
Yeah.
We wouldn't have a clue at the moment, because don't even know what's going forward.
Well, that's right, and that's made me uncomfortable, which is why I raised it.
So if it's an item on the agenda of this committee at some stage in our work program in March or whatever like that.
And look, I welcome any other councillor who wants to cut their teeth on this, because of course I've been involved at the Regional Council for a long time, and that's why I guess I was put on this committee. But if somebody would like to understand better and come alongside with me, that would be very, very helpful and provide another conduit and a learning opportunity.
And I think just to add to that, if I may, there is an opportunity I see at the moment with representation. I think we can heavily sway the program in HCC's favour, just with the nature of the program as it stands now. I believe underrepresentation from other councils, and also for in the stormwater space, it's only becoming more and more relevant. So I think there's an opportunity for us as a council to be more involved.
Definitely.
Well, why don't we also circulate the meeting dates in advance, even if it's an email going around through democracy?
Yeah, we can. We've had a little glitch in that, but we're working that out now. I see there's a clash with the next one, where they weren't cognizant of my ability to attend, even though I kind of... But it's been dealt with, so democracy have been great in sorting that out for me.
That does happen with the regional council, not thinking that all dates are in their calendar. Okay, that's great. Any other questions, comments from people? Thanks very much, Adam and Lee.
No problems.
Appreciate meeting you guys here.
One off.
They did an excellent presentation at the last Watershed Committee. All the capital works that are being done around some of our streams and tributaries, some of the ecological work that the city is doing, and about the state of our infrastructure. So it was an awesome presentation from staff, and I do want to share that.
Okay, well, maybe in future we'll start distributing them too. Yeah, but anyway, don't need to discuss that now. We're just trying to get introduced to the subject, I think. All right, councillors, that's all of the GM's reports. So we're just going to finish that and move on to the item that we're a quarter of an hour late for now. But the recommendations are on page 95, A, B and C. receive the report, Leo and I to work on the draft regional public transport submission, and note that that will be reported retrospectively, which will be after it's lodged, but before final decisions are made. So that's the motion which I've moved and James has seconded. Any discussion on that? No. Those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thanks very much. Now, councillors, we're on to item, what item? 9, top of the page there. And then straight after that, because I see Barry and Dawn are here, we will go to city guide signage. They're smiling about something up there. You're there to guide Dawn, or is it the other way round? Anyway, sorry, we're on to the Hamilton Waikato tourism signage. Jason and Annabelle are here, and Sean. Sean, are you coming up with them or introducing them? I don't think I need to, Mr. Chair. No, we sort of know them. Jason, it's over to you, and thanks very much, and thanks for accommodating the time change as well. Yep, great. You know how this place works, so I hope by now. We got there we are.
We have. Great. Good afternoon, Chair and Councillors. Thank you for allowing us time. We're here to present our annual report for the last financial year, 27 to 2018. You've already been aware, Annabelle Cotton has joined me today. She's the Chair of the Hamilton Waikato Tourism Board. So just taking you through just some of our high-level targets that we have. So we have 7 performance targets that we agree on with each of our 7 councils for the coming year. So this is just a bit of a progress update on where we were at the end of June. So look, our visitor nights, we didn't meet that target. We had to achieve a 5% increase of total visitor guest nights versus the national trend. We closed at 1.1% down. And again, a lot of that was due to, if I talk about from a regional perspective, it is just that time of year for us. We close our financial year in June. So from April down to June is basically what we call our off-season, going into winter, where we do see a bit of a drop-off with regards to visitor nights across our region. So again, business events keep us up, but the leisure travellers stay away, and they only return back in summer. Visitor spend, so we did see a 6% growth. So over the whole financial year, we achieved a $1.478 billion target, which was fantastic. Our convention and business events, we did achieve a 10.6% result. Visitor awareness and perception, so you would all be aware we used to use Net Promoter Score. Now we measure favourability. So basically we ask people who are not from Hamilton and from Waikato, what's their propensity to visit our region? Do they look upon us favourably or not as a destination? And the ranking that came out for this year for the first time was 7.24 out of 10. So that's 75% what I would call favourability ranking for our region, which is fantastic. Website and social media, we now measure what we call digital engagement around referrals and click-throughs through to our operators, and hopefully leading to bookings. That's achieved a 10.64% ranking, so that's definitely up from our 5% target. Industry investment, so this last financial year we have to attract 400,000 from industry to actually fund our activities, to actually what we call top up our local government contributions. The board have reset for this coming financial year that we will have to achieve 450,000 from industry, and we managed to attract 437 over last financial year. And then lastly, we have a return on investment figure, so for every tourism dollar or every dollar of funding that is received from local government, the 7 councils, we've returned a $1,260 return on that every dollar that's been invested by councils. Next slide is just really covering off where we ended at the end of June. So again, we're still the 5th highest visitor expenditure across the country, behind Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Queenstown. Domestic is still our #1 market. They're bringing in $1.167 billion into the region, and internationals are sitting at around $365 million. Our international markets haven't changed, but what I have overlaid this year is just highlighting the spend coming into the region. So the top 5 international markets visiting New Zealand are also our top 5 as a region. So Australia's our number 1 market, bringing in 86 million into the region. China's number 2 at 48 million, and you'll see the US, UK, Japan and Germany obviously are bringing in between 50 to 34 million into the region. So at least we can see that actually the international visitors that are coming here, how much they are actually spending in the region throughout the year. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You gave
Yes,
us, is
it is in the handout. It's actually on page, well, sorry, it won't be on your page.
Might
It'll
be
be
not
on
on the agenda though, eh?
It's on OneDrive, Gary. Oh, sorry, you don't have a computer.
Here it
you're
is here.
right. It
Thank you.
wasn't included. Sorry. But yes, I can make that available anyway.
Gary will be able to
Great.
pick it up off the OneDrive.
Oh, great. Page 3. Thanks.
So, I'll show you how to use a computer.
Yeah. Yes. International arrivals, so what we are seeing is our emerging markets growing from Korea through to Hong Kong, but the biggest mover has definitely been India. Again, we've talked for a few years now around how we've led international marketing into India with Tourism New Zealand. That's now attracting a 20% growth rate into New Zealand and also the Waikato. Visitor expenditure, so this is for Hamilton. So your annual total visitor spend is at 694, so nearly 700 million is coming from your domestic visitors into the city, and your internationals are just over 190 million into the city as well. When it comes to what the visitors are spending their money on when they come to Hamilton, what we have is an annual regional visitor spend. So this was only up until January. That was the latest figures that I have. As you can see on your left, domestic retail is still the number 1 spend, followed by food and beverage, and then retail with regards to entertainment. Sorry, I'm trying to read some of this as well with my bad eyesight. Retail sales, and then tourism products, passenger, cultural and accommodation is the least that our domestic visitors are spending on when they come to our region. International is a bit of a different picture. F&B's number 1, and you definitely see that in the Hamilton spend. Tourism products are 2, and then retail sales in 3 and 4. So that's the types of things that our visitors are spending on. It isn't all just on tourism experiences. It is around the accommodation, the food, the shopping, and the experiences that the city offers as well. Guest nights, so your total guest nights for the year ended at nearly 750,000, which is significant. You will see again it starts to plateau towards the end of what we call the season, and we'll start to see the pickup begin very shortly with regards to the opening of this year's tourism season. But touching on commercial accommodation, even though there is plateau, and there is obviously lots of things going on in the city that I just wanted to make sure you're all aware of. The Novotel Tainui, of course, we've got the upgrade which commences very soon, around adding 4 extra rooms above the main entrance into the Novotel. They've just finished the bathroom upgrades throughout the entire stock, and then they will look at upgrading Ibis Tainui, because Ibis is now 10 years old as a product, so it's definitely time for a bit of a refresh in the market. The Sedima Hotel, the old commercial hotel on the corner of Victoria and Collingwood, for most of you, I hope you are aware, the Sedima brand will be leaving Hamilton at the end of December. They are now positioning themselves as a 4.5-star hotel in our country. They've got new builds going on in Kaikoura, Auckland and Christchurch. They are up to a 4.5-star standard. So I have met with the families who actually own the building and the new hotel developer. There is development that is going on, as you know, on the ground floor. It's been going on for a very long time. So I have met with them around how they intend to speed it up. With the new developer on board, what they are looking at with the family is actually opening that entire ground floor up to hotels. So they would bring in a cafe, lobby bar and restaurant onto the ground floor, and potentially increase the room sizes up to 100. It's currently a 70-room hotel. They would look at bringing it to 4.5-star standard and actually adding an extra 35 rooms to it as well. So that's their current plans. Council, they are working obviously with council, with ourselves, and with a few others in the city as well to hopefully get those plans finalised that we can then announce, because they are actually meeting with new operators now who are very keen to come into the city. As you know, construction across New Zealand with hotels is a bit of a risky business right now, but to actually go into what we call a brownfield site where there is already an existing building, and refurbishing it is a far better proposition for most hotel operators and investors as well. So we will keep you posted once a new operator is confirmed for that. The Ambassador Hotel, so that's currently under negotiations to bring in a new management operator. That will probably be the Scenic Hotel Group. Scenic are a national group. They're about to take over the Karapiro Spa as well in a joint venture, which is the unopened hotel we've had sitting on the shores of Lake Karapiro now for 15 years. So it's ready to go. It's 45 villa complex there. They want to have quite a significant footprint here in our region, so Ambassador is a logical move for them. They'll probably bring the Heartland brand into Ambassador, but it'll actually bring us into what we call the national network of hotels. So good news for Ambassador. And then lastly, Distinction, the old Kingsgate at Te Rapa. Look, the room refurbishments are complete. They're now moving into the lobby area and the restaurant areas for the next upgrade, and then the conference centre will then be upgraded as well. So even though, again, plateauing with regards to commercial guest nights and the lack of, at the moment, of brand new hotel builds, we do see a lot of investment going into our current stock, which is good to make sure Hamilton stays on the radar. Holiday parks, so again, just a bit of a snapshot. We have now started to track the impact of holiday parks into our region. We are currently sitting quite well. We have a 20% market share of holiday parks for people who are actually staying there. You'll see the split, 66% are actually domestic, staying in our holiday parks in our region, and 34% are international. And the one holiday park we do have here in Hamilton is Hamilton City. So we do work with a lot of the new developers coming into the region. We have talked to Te Awa Lakes and also to the new development in Pocono about opening up some potential land for future holiday parks. Cambridge Top 10 only opened a year ago. These are still growth areas for us to try and fill some of the accommodation need for domestic particularly, but also for international. Airbnb, we are going to start to report on as well. So this is not in your agenda, but we'll be adding it. This is the latest figures. We're starting to track the impact of Airbnb across the region. Again, this is to help councils start to look at some other levers that you may want to apply to non-commercial accommodation. But right now, as at the end of June, you had 425 active rentals. 32% of those rentals listed on Airbnb are actually full homes, so they are potentially what we would call investors that are leasing out entire homes or properties, rather than just the extra bedroom or studio. We've seen the rental growth in Airbnb for the region, or for the city particularly, go up 150%, particularly over the last 3 years. And your occupancy rates are quite high. They're sitting at around 54% for Airbnb. Currently for Waipa and Maramara Piako and Waikato, which are also impacted by Airbnb, they're only tracking at around 26% occupancy. So not too much of a threat for them. But for us, again, it'll be great for my commercial operators to try and increase their product sizes and improve their product to make sure we are competitive against Airbnb. Marketing of Hamilton, excuse me. Look, I won't spend too much time on this. All of this is detailed in your report. It's just to give you a quick snapshot of some of the things we do. We do a lot of what we call media hosting and familiars to try and get the Hamilton stories out there. I just picked up from the airport this morning the latest September Kia Ora magazine. We worked hard with Kia Ora for the last 6 months to get more features around the Waikato region. Last month we had a Raglan feature. The September issue actually is a 3-page directory of the cool places to eat and drink in Hamilton. So it's showcasing our restaurants. We worked with Waikato Food Inc. and all the providers inside Kia Ora magazine to actually pitch their business. We hosted the writer for 3 days in the city, and she's written some very good content, again, around promoting the city as a food destination as well. So we're starting to see some of the benefits of the work and the change with Kia Ora's philosophy. International marketing, so again we still work really closely with what we call the Central North Island. I'm currently chair of Explore Central North Island, which is our international marketing alliance, encompasses those areas on the map right there, from Auckland pretty much down to Napier and across the Taupo and Ruapehu. We promote the Thermal Explorer Highway, which goes right through the heart of the city. And we've also been working with Hamilton City, with the planning team and with infrastructure and with NZTA around the future direction of Thermal Explorer Highway. We're quite happy with where that's landing, and also now working with the NZTA team around the signage strategy to make sure our tourism signs for Hamilton Gardens, Waikato Museum, and also Raglan and Hamilton Zoo are clearly sign marked on the exits for the Waikato Expressway Hamilton section. And then lastly, just look some other international marketing. We spend a lot of time, this is just a photo from our Indian travel agent Famil, where Tourism New Zealand and Air New Zealand flew down 150 of the highest selling travel agents out of India, and we locked them in a hotel in Auckland for 5 days and talked to them incessantly and trained them in our products. So we got half a day with those travel agents to actually teach them about Waikato. We don't have time to bring them into the region, so it's pretty much an immersive process, getting them to understand the types of things that they can actually sell and on-sell and get Waikato and Hamilton particularly onto their itineraries. And then lastly, trade shows. So we spend a lot of time obviously going offshore and within New Zealand, pitching to buyers for travel trade operators. Explore, we had 19 operators, and I've highlighted a few of the Hamilton operators that came with us. And our big main international buying event is actually Trends, which was held in Dunedin in May. And Hamilton Gardens was our main Hamilton operator that we took with us this year on our regional stand. Growing business events, look, no major change here. We are still the third largest region for multi-day events across the country, so we're ahead of Auckland and Wellington, but I doubt we'll be able to hold that position in the long run, but we're working really hard at the moment. We have a new convention centre that's obviously underway in Christchurch called Te Pai, which will be comparable to the size of Claudelands, except it won't have exhibition or green space, and they do have a 5,000 seat fixed auditorium as part of their convention centre, which actually makes them less of a, what I would call a open space like we have at Claudelands. And we also have the International Convention Centre that's opening in Auckland in 2020. However, the benefits we're already starting to see of that, so we've got the World PR Forum coming in 2021. We're working with Claudelands now to host 1,000 of those delegates just for a research symposium. So even though the International Convention Centre will bring big major multi-day events in the tens of thousands into Auckland, what we are seeing is some of the breakout sessions and the symposiums pre and post conference actually want to come into the Waikato. So great opportunity for us to continue that. And then lastly, just the investment. International delegates spend double the amount of a leisure traveller. They spend $300 per day. It's on top of registration and transport. And they're spending around 7.2 nights in New Zealand while they are here. Our domestic delegates, that's you and I, when we go off to maybe the Local Government New Zealand conference in Christchurch, we would spend around 461 additional on top of our flights, accommodation, and that's mainly around retail, food and hospitality, and F&B and retail spend as well. So again, a really lucrative market for us as a region and for Hamilton to hold on to. And then lastly, growing our value. Look, we've talked for a couple of years now as we're activating the Tourism Opportunities Plan. We've got 5 game changers which we talk about, from activating the Waikato River through to developing basically the home of Kingitunga and some of our Māori tourism products. I just wanted to give you a bit of an update on 2 of them, which are the brand strategy and the major event strategy, which we've been leading for the last 12 months. The major event strategy has been adopted by our board. Our vision for major events across the region is to create a major events portfolio which showcases and positively promotes the region. It brings new money in to the economy and makes residents proud of where they live. Now, the reason why we've added new money is because it's not about cannibalising from our existing events in our region. We really want to start to attract international but mainly domestic visitation out of our drive markets of Auckland and fly markets of Christchurch and Wellington to come to our region in larger numbers for our events. So that's what we talk about when we say new money, rather than just moving it around our own economy. Our major event comes, look, we've got 4 major event comes. One, we want to showcase the region as a destination, because we know things like the Sevens, when people come here, we host the media, the teams that we're coming for actually a week and a half before the Sevens this year, and we will be showcasing the region, the city and the destination. And so a lot of that gets reported every night on the news, plus all of those team members are sharing the content on their social media channels. Number 2 is to grow incremental GDP. So we've got some hairy, audacious goals that we want to really have an impact on GDP with major events into the region. 3, again, contributing to vibrancy and growing that community pride. We want people to feel that they should be proud to live in Hamilton and Waikato, and that there is lots to do. As we all know, there is a lot to do every day here, but again, it's about trying to provide some cohesive marketing and a calendar of events for the region. And then lastly, maximising use of our event infrastructure, venues and spaces. So it's to say we've got some world-class venues here in open spaces like Karapiro and Raglan with their surf break. We need to actually utilise those, maintain them and make sure we get the right benefits for them all. We've got 6 enablers, again, won't go through them all, but it's really around coordinating it better for the region, creating a governance group, which we will actually look at making decisions around future major events for our region that we will bid for, and also developing a major event fund for the region in year 2, which is next financial year, where we can actually put some money in as a region to actually try and facilitate and attract some different events to our region as well. The major event fund and a new person that we will bring on board to prospect for events will also help our current events grow. If I take Balloons Over Waikato, look, it's got fantastic social outcomes for our region. We get significant numbers that attend the Night Glow and the Mass Ascension, but what we don't have is what I would call a lot of economic impact that is generated out of that event. So it's not to say we're going to take that away, but we are working closely with Michelle and the team around how we're going to try and grow some bigger economic impacts, and that could be around potentially balloon rides, offering more competitions again into our key markets, but really driving more what we call visitation from other parts of the country to attend some of our major events as well. And also with those events, we continually need to change them. And when we say change, I mean adding to the experience, the value. Events are more around what we call festivals now. People want to be inspired. They're into the food, the wine or non-alcoholic drinks available. They want the experience, the learning. It's more than just a physical event. So again, it's working with a lot of those current event event owners to actually grow and enhance their events as well. And then lastly, the visitor brand strategy. So look, as you know, we've always talked for many years around this chamber and as well as all the other chambers around the Waikato about who we are as a brand. For us, it was around trying to identify a cohesive brand that we could use for the region. As you know, when we've been doing our perception research for many years, when people look to us, whether it be favourable as a visitor destination, they're not quite clear on who we are and what we stand for. So what came through through the Visitor Brand Project was the brand purpose. So the Mighty Waikato is something that actually resonated really strongly with our, what we call all our drive and fly markets. So these are people from outside of our region saying, what do we know the region for? The Mighty Waikato came through quite strong, as well as obviously researching and measuring our local residents across our region as well. The brand values that came through, and this is around when we go to develop the brand, as people always found we were quite authentic as a region, that we actually are quite magical. We have a lot of real and unreal places, so Hamilton Gardens, Hobbiton, Waitomo, they're actually a mixture of real and unreal. You know, some of them are what we call man-made created attractions over something like Waitomo Caves or the Waikato River or Taupiri Mountain, which actually are natural attractions. But again, it's around the sense that we have two sides to ourselves as a visitor proposition. And lastly, surprising, because we all know when people come to our region or to the city and they experience it, they are pleasantly surprised and they become our raving ambassadors and want to return. So we're starting to work now on what we call the design concepts and how we will now pitch that into the New Zealand domestic market. And then lastly, we came up with a story. So the story was co-written with stakeholders, with iwi across the region, the 5 iwi, plus all of the business community over a year. And this is really what we call just a consistent script that I've put in the agenda, just to basically say who we are as a region. We will start to use this to develop our content and our marketing strategies for the region for the next 12 to 24 months. Lastly, it is around, this is the Mighty Waikato, where the magic runs deep, which was something that came through quite strong. Again, it's that sense of magic. Deep is not only deep with regards to caves or underground, it's also deep as into mana, the kingitanga and the stories that we have here within our river as well. And that's the end of my presentation, but happy to take any questions.
Thanks. Maybe if I just kick it off, a number of us from this council went to a dinner out at Hobbiton and a tour of Hobbiton last week, where the CEO of Hobbiton roundly attacked the word Hamilton being in Hamilton Waikato tourism and attacked the city as well. So I'm wondering, two questions. What's the organisation's view on the word Hamilton being part of Hamilton and Waikato tourism? And two, what sort of contribution does Hobbiton make to that private sector, 430,000?
So Hobbiton are what we call one of our gold partners. So Claudelands, Hamilton Gardens and the zoo and the museum are collectively a gold partner. So they are at what we call our top tier of investment. with regards to going offshore with us and marketing. They also do a lot of in-kind. So most of our operators, as part of their business, you know, if they run tours, night tours, they put and host a lot of media for us for free. So that's where Claudelands currently sits. I would say with regard to the name, so as you would have seen, I've just discussed our
Sorry,
brand.
that's where Claudelands currently sits, but I was asking about Hobbiton.
Includes Hobbiton, sorry, as well. So Hobbiton's at the top tier with regards to investment, with Waitomo, Hamilton Gardens. So what we call our major attractions are the ones that actually work with us quite closely to market the region entirely. So that is that. Look, just a little bit about Hobbiton. I mean, I'm sure, look, I know Russell, he's a bit of a, he says some interesting comments. I hope you don't take that to heart. Look, he's an alumni of Waikato University and has actually spent most of his life here in Hamilton.
He said that, and he said he couldn't get out quick enough.
And yet he uses us quite a lot as a city supporting it. So look, I would say as a proposition for the region, Hobbiton are quite a key part of it. 1 in 6 international travellers that come here are drawn to this country because of the Hobbit movies and Lord of the Rings. So we do leverage actually off that fact because it actually gets us in the picture, whether it be Hamilton or Waikato. We mention the word Hobbiton, and that's kind of our gateway into international markets, so it does work to our favour as well. And then lastly, the name. So as you've seen, I talked a lot around the Mighty Waikato brand and our lack of a visitor brand. That is my biggest issue. What we are called as an organisation, of course we are called Hamilton and Waikato Tourism, we're just a legal entity or the organisation, but I don't promote us as an organisation, it's more around promoting the region. What we are called, look, we haven't really discussed this thoroughly yet as a board, with the board, but for us it's around pitching the visitor brand first and making sure that stays strong, which is around Waikato, and Hamilton's always a part of the Waikato. You are the capital of the region and what I call the hub of the region for our tourism proposition. So that's kind of where we sit right now.
So you're saying that the word Hamilton in the official name of the organisation is not an issue, then? Is that what you're saying to us?
I wouldn't say it's an issue for us as an organisation name. From a proposition, though, it's definitely about the Waikato overall.
Thanks. So I've got a questionless Gary.
Thank you. You talked about a major events fund. Is this a new thing?
Yes, it will be a new thing.
And presumably you'll be knocking at our door?
Maybe, but we would be seeing actually private sector investment, so very similar to what Dallas has done for 37 South. He uses a lot of his own funding to actually deliver major events for the city. So again, we probably won't be leaning on local government as much. Some of our councils have indicated they may wish to contribute some, but I would say if local government do contribute, it probably won't be, I would say, the majority of the funding, which is good.
You will be expecting some from Hamilton, then?
Potentially, I'll be asking all of my council if they wish to contribute or not.
All right. And and I asked this one last year too. You've got this on page 66. You've got this extraordinary return on investment, $1,260 per dollar. The Hamilton
Council.
Waikato tourism spends. Is that what that is?
No, so that's every council dollar that the 7 councils put in. So we get 1.2 million from all our 7 councils in total.
Yep.
Hamilton is the major contributor. So for every council dollar that's invested into us, that's the return that we bring back into the region. And that's mainly only from 2 indicators. It's commercial accommodation and visitor spend.
That suggests there's a cause and effect, that if a dollar of council money generates $1,260 of tourism, but that forgets that there's millions of dollars being spent by private investors and our own facilities, Claudelands Event Centre, rugby stadiums, cricket stadiums, that are losing millions of dollars that are not taken into that account there, are they?
Correct. So these are 7 performance targets that we have to...
so is this a performance target?
For the councils.
So this is a performance target. That's why you're reporting it. Okay.
Based on the council funding that we received, yes.
Okay. So is that something we gave you to get?
Correct. All the 7 councils agree that they want to see the return. And what we do is every second year, and I think we'll be coming up into this year, I then also compare that return on investment that other councils are contributing around the country to their tourism agencies and what their return is giving them. So Hamilton can see where their contribution and the councils are ranking.
Because it's kind of a meaningless figure, isn't it, when you realise that in order to generate that $1,260, a hotel's got to be built, a rugby stadium's got to be built, an event centre's got to be built, and all of those things have to be built and operated, and many of them, most of the council facilities run at significant losses. So, okay, you're just reporting on what we asked you to report on.
Just reporting on what your funding gives you to us.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Angela, please.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Annabelle. A few questions. The Airbnb 54% occupancy rate that you reported to us on the slides, what's the occupancy? That's annually, obviously.
Correct, it's at
Yeah.
end of January.
And so what's the occupancy rate for commercial accommodation then in the region?
So that's commercially sensitive based on each hotel. So we
Okay,
don't.
so you can't get that data?
No, I can. Yeah, no. I can't publicly tell you what those occupancy figures are, but each hotel does track it. Look, at the moment, for Matamata Piako, particularly because we've only got four motels, for example, in Matamata, they're currently tracking at 95% occupancy rates because there is no other accommodation there. Here in Hamilton, you're probably looking at around 75 at the moment. It's currently sitting at.
So I guess it's just, if in the future the council wants to look at some kind of regulation for Airbnbs, and there was a submission from the Hospitality Association to go down that track, we would need to have an understanding of what the Airbnb 54% is, because if all the hotels and motels are full and don't have the capacity, then the 54% is helping
Correct.
the region survive.
Correct.
So,
And what you would need to do, I mean, and that's what you've seen with other councils that have started to look at charging additional rates on Airbnb owners. There would be a bit more, you'd need some more extensive reporting on that, because it's also around the size, the returns, what they're charging out at with regards to providing councillors with some better information anyway.
yeah. What's your view? I mean, you'll be very aware that council was having a look at eyesight in terms of possibly its location and how it operates. Do you have a view from an expert in tourism on where the right location would be? Not specifically, but in terms of, is it best to locate something like that at a tourism destination in a CBD on a main motorway? What's in your opinion? Do you have an opinion?
I do have an opinion, and look, and I have provided comments during the eyesight review as well. I believe whatever any council decides, it's always good to have one eyesight at least, or your main eyesight if you decide to have more than one in your CBD. CBDs, the reason why particularly is all your commercial accommodation is based or centred around your CBD, so all the hotels are here. Potentially it's also close to some of the attractions, so you do have, for Hamilton's sake, Waikato Stadium, Seddon Park and Claudelands, all within walking distance. You've got Waikato Museum in the CBD as well. And there needs to be coach parking really available, visitor parking, and easily accessible. I mean, those are probably keys to any sort of eyesight in a major city. So if I look at Auckland's, for example, Auckland did a review of their eyesights a couple of years ago. They did close some of what they call the outer offices of their eyesight. They had one at Bombay for many years, Orewa, Pukekohe, Waiuku, those have all closed. They've centralised in Auckland, the three main places. One is Princess Wharf, which is actually a joint eyesight with Department of Conservation. I don't know whether DOC actually have a visitor centre here in the region. So it's a joint one at Princess Wharf, mainly for the cruise and for downtown Auckland. It's close to Britomart. And then they also have Sky City, where the bus station is as well, because obviously it's a main transport hub, and they have the Auckland Airport. So where the people are, really, the visitors.
Yeah. Okay. On page 74 of electronic, and you're talking about your campaigns, it's attachment 1, targeted market campaigns and activities, Hamilton experiences profiled. There's some fantastic destinations and businesses. My question's about the businesses that you profiled. What kind of process do you have to select those? Because there are some standout businesses in there that keep being repeated and keep being profiled, and I'm just wanting to test your process on being fair and equitable about that. I mean, obviously you're not there to advertise a person's individual business, but there are some names that keep popping up. So how do you manage that?
So to make up our industry investment, obviously industry contribute funding to be part of marketing campaigns. So all of those businesses you see actually do contribute to our marketing. They will join us on either food campaigns that we will market into the Australian market, or they will join us with regards to hosting for meals. So that's why those businesses are there. So they're the businesses that have actually put their hand up and said, we're prepared to either provide in-kind or some additional funding to actually enable some marketing campaigns to happen for the city.
Okay, that's good. I think I just have, You've got in the, I'm on page 81, the Te Awa Lakes development and the Waikato River Festival you've listed as a game changer. There's also right under there a cultural centre development, which looks to be in Puketi. Now, I was at an event on Saturday that you were at, and I was told that possibly this item here is top secret, but you've got it on your piece of paper. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, that one, the cultural centre development?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that one's top
That's not
secret.
it?
Basically, they have been running tours into Ngārawahia
Right.
with Chinese tour groups for the
Okay.
last 12 months as a pilot. They were looking for a physical place, so Waikato District were trying to get them to develop their cultural centre in Waikato District in Ngārawahia. They worked with the council and decided actually they wanted to bring it into Hamilton. So it's currently on private land that they're looking to develop, which is actually, it says Puketi and it is probably
Yeah.
more towards its Te Rapa. And it is on existing land. It will be a commercial development, but it is somewhere for them to host and actually tell the stories
Okay.
of Waikato
I think
Tainui.
that probably is the same thing.
I think
so.
it is the same one. Didn't realise it was top secret.
Yeah. And final question, on page 83, you're looking to bring on board a secretariat
Correct.
service. I think I know how that
Sure,
will
what
run,
does that
but
mean?
if you can just tell me.
Sure. So look, it's very similar for those of you who know Amanda Graham. Amanda is our Convention Bureau Manager. So her role is actually to bid and host international conferences and conventions here in the city and the region. So we'll be looking at doing a similar type of model for one additional person, which will be a major events manager or major events coordinator to actually bid and prospect for major events to come into the city and region, as well as provide support service for our current events to grow. So they're like a development manager that actually help events. They'll come from an events background, hopefully. They will actually around growing and developing events to make them more, hopefully, commercially sustainable. And then secondly, it's also to bid and prospect
Okay, yeah.
and coordinate for the region.
Thank you.
Thanks. Siggy, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your very in-depth report. Just on that page number 2 of the handout, unpaid domestic guest nights, does that mean just friends and family coming to visit and staying?
Correct.
Yeah, but spending?
Correct.
So
So they're
spending.
visiting friends and family, yes.
Okay, that's cool. I'm just looked at page 84, and you're talking about the mighty Waikato and what we can do with what's already been done with the river and using the river as to attract more visitors. And I was, and it reminded me of something that where I come from, we've been doing for years, and I wonder whether we could bring something like that into the city. And I suppose we should talk about that. I'll send you a link. But I just thought we can use the river more. We do floats on the road. Maybe we can do floats on the river or something. So, but yeah, it just came to me that we could use the river a lot more than we do at the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Okay, Paula, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Thank you very much. A couple of questions. One of the issues used to be that people were travelling through, that we're a bit of a corridor destination, Hamilton. They were travelling through on their way to Waitomo or Rotorua or somewhere. And the trick is to get them to stay. So what do we know about the trend to, are we getting better at making them stay a little bit longer, or are they still just staying, majority of people coming, staying a half day at the gardens and going on, or one night in Hamilton and going on? Are we making any traction with getting people to come and say, well, you know, we're going to spend a couple of days in Hamilton before we mosey on through?
Sure. So at the moment for Hamilton, with regards to our group travel, that's through our coach travellers and also through our FITs, Friend Independent Travellers. Hamilton is now getting their first and last nights of their international journey. So people are choosing now to stay in Hamilton rather than actually go back to Auckland and fly out.
Yeah.
Again, congestion, cost of accommodation, and lots of other issues that Auckland are trying to deal with are actually playing to our advantage as a city. Look, the completion of the Waikato Expressway, what we're also seeing is the forward bookings from 2020 on, as people are wanting to stay 2 to 3 nights in Hamilton, because again, the ease of access and the connection from us for the international airport straight into Hamilton, where they can actually start their holiday. But traditionally, we have seen people stay here as a hub, so they will stay here and visit Hobbiton and also visit Waitomo. So you're looking at a 2-night stay now. But again, I currently have issues with regards to accommodating some of those numbers. So we're definitely seeing the need and the desire of people to want to stay in Hamilton. But what we need to do is obviously just try and make sure I can accommodate them with some more large-scale quality accommodation. That would be.
So that's still the.
It's still, and you'll see
the
that with regards to
opportunity
your
and it's-
expenditure. Look, visitor expenditure is definitely up for Hamilton. It's continuing to grow compared to the other parts of our region. Look, only Matamata is probably the only other region that's experiencing the growth. And for Waitomo, unfortunately, they're a day trip destination because they have no current hotel accommodation there. So again, that actually works again to our benefit, and for Matamata as well with Hobbiton. We are seeing more of the travellers stay here and actually go to Hobbiton for the day rather than even go to Rotorua.
So the opportunity is now for us.
Opportunity is
because
now.
otherwise someone else could develop. Waitomo could put a hotel in and.
Yeah, they could. I
But
think
you
what
don't
will
think
end up happening though is, look, obviously you've seen lots of hotel developments that discussed for the region at Te Awa Lakes. You know, there was today, obviously, in the Waikato Times talking about Pocono. We've had Hampton Downs. For us, it's all that's really doing is absorbing the excess that we currently have now. I would say all that will create, even with more hotels here in Hamilton, is actually just to give people more reasons to base themselves here.
Okay. Oh, that's good. A couple more, if I might. Domestic tourism versus international tourism is a bit of an issue, isn't it? But where are most of them being Australian? You said so. Where are all the Australians going in Hamilton? Are they all going to the majority going to the gardens, or where are they going?
So our group itineraries are going to Hamilton Gardens. So look, Australians definitely go there. They love it. They are definitely spending more time. Look, Australians as a traveller, they're a bit like Kiwis. When we go to Australia, look, they're more of what we call the see and do. So they don't just literally just want to sit there and actually just eat and drink. They actually do want to do some physical activity. So we're seeing a lot of them going on our cycleways. A lot of them are going to Mangatotiri, to Raglan, and even into Te Aroha now. We're seeing a bit of a pickup. So outside of what we call the traditional tourism attractions, Australians are actually wanting to come. This is their 3rd or 4th holiday to New Zealand. They want to explore.
So walking's quite big business.
So walking and
still.
cycling is still quite big for that target market.
Okay. And in terms of growing the business going forward, I was just looking at the list that you have on page 81 at the top. Excuse me. And you've got the top 5, and then you've got the other bullet points. And I do support the development of the Waikato River. Who doesn't? But will this be enough of a draw card on its own? My sense is, I could be wrong, my sense is that these are all interwoven, and you have to have a package deal kind of thing going on in Hamilton, not just one thing. So in real terms, are people going to come into Hamilton for the river experience, or they're going to come in because it's got a nice river experience and it's got.
Correct. What you'll need is, to develop more reasons for people to stay, you probably need 2 or 3 what we call hero experiences here in the city. And look, and I think you've got the assets. You've got Waikato Museum, you've got Hamilton Gardens, you've got Waikato River, and you've got Hamilton Zoo. So Hamilton Zoo is very much a domestic, currently right now, attraction, but with the future development of Waiwhakariki, which is what we're kind of seeing with Mangatotiri as well. Look, people who come here, they do want to experience our wildlife and conservation and open spaces. Those are quite big hooks for all our international markets. So again, I think with, looking at all your current assets, and look, Councillor Mallett's mentioned all the investment that Council does make in lots of different areas. It is around bringing that all together to actually provide what I would call stronger packages and reasons to stay. And look, and slowly things are starting with the new, gardens that will continue to open for Hamilton Gardens. It is around providing more experiences from that potentially link to the museum, maybe via the river, cycle one way, riverboat back, and then eventually linking out to Hamilton Zoo and Waiwhakariki. But again, still having a strong urban heart, which is something that we do work with Hamilton Central on, is still a great proposition. People do want to obviously stay, play and dine out while they're in our city as well.
Okay, and just last sort of area I wanted to touch on, thank you, is the around the conferences and events. So international tourists, each one spends more money, well, they're on holiday, I guess. But conferences are good bread and butter for the city, aren't they? So we're still pushing to get people en masse, or in the city for conferences of different scales. Is that still the direction?
That's still a
we should-
priority,
That's still a
absolutely.
priority we should be taking.
And again, we've worked really hard with the Waikato University, so we've done that now for 2 years to bring in what we call, I think we've brought in 15 international conferences with the university. We're about to start work with the DHB next around targeting some health conferences to bring into the city. We work with Waikato Innovation Park around agri-tech conferences. So again, it's looking at what we call our niches as a city that we all know that we're strong on. And about starting to attract and bring in events that are aligned to the expertise that we currently have in our city. That actually makes it another draw card as well.
Okay, and just to be finally a bit provocative, if I might, where you've told us in your report, which is an excellent report, thank you, what you're working on and doing and the focus. And what would you say should be the focus, the main focus of Hamilton City Council in supporting the increase of tourism into our city?
Apart from keeping on paying our 586,000 or whatever.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
it is a partnership, I think.
It is a
Yeah,
partnership.
yeah, so I'm just wondering what you think, where our key focus should be. And I know that is a little bit of a provocative question, but interested in your view.
I think it is around, look, I think, Councillor Mallett's mentioned it, the types of investment that you currently make already into your facilities. So I think it is around targeting some of that investment or prioritising it based on what will bring you the best return. So it is around the continued development of Hamilton Gardens, the Waikato Museum, activating it and actually opening it up to the river and providing more experiential experiences and tours out of that. And then Hamilton Zoo, Waiwhakariki, definitely around bringing those two closer together and actually, positioning it as a place that actually people need to visit when they do come to the city. So it is about linking your current assets and providing priorities for investment in those areas.
Okay, thank you very much.
And just before we start the rest of the questions, I was just going to recommend to councillors you might like to contact home and say you're not likely to be back before 7 p.m. tonight at the rate we're going. So Councillor Gallagher, thanks.
No, actually, you've just answered my question, except that you obviously will tell us that the evolution and the growth of the river plan, the river precinct, is a very critical part of a visitor strategy.
Look, absolutely. I think what I've seen on Friday, I hosted 7 travel operators out of Christchurch who actually book a lot of travel into New Zealand out of China. They have never come to Hamilton. They've never stopped here. We only had them for 3 hours. We started at Victoria on the River, where they could see the river. We took them to Duck Island ice cream, Mr Pickles, went out to the gardens, went out to the zoo. And literally they emailed me today and said from 2020 they're going to have 3 nights of group travel coming in consistently into Hamilton. So look, it's definitely around, the river is our unique selling proposition. No other city can actually take them to a riverfront and say, look at our river, Whanganui, bless them. It's a great little city, but for us we've got the biggest and the mightiest river. So it's definitely around, if you see what you've done with activating Victoria on the River, and the success that has driven, whether it be for locals and also for visitors, just by looking at the rest of the other parts of the CBD that potentially could activate the river will really help.
Perfect answer. Thank you for a very comprehensive report.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks.
Hey, look, just here's one left of centre. On page 3, we're talking about the international arrivals, etc., and the rise of the Indian market. Is there a correlation between immigration and visitor numbers? Like, are people coming to see family, etc., more?
Look, for the Indian market and China market particularly, there is definitely the need to come and visit family. We obviously have a big international student numbers here in Waikato, particularly in Hamilton for the university and for Wintec, so that definitely drives some of that. But for India particularly, it is actually around the growing middle class, and same out of China. So these are people now that are more free to travel. They have more time and they have more money. So New Zealand is a great bucket list for them.
So what's after them? What's the next emerging market?
It'll be what we call the Southeast Asia market, so looking more towards Indonesia. Indonesia will be one of the fastest growing areas, the Philippines, and the Southern Americas. So obviously with Air New Zealand going into Buenos Aires, we're seeing great growth onto that route, so we're now seeing more interest coming out of the Americas as well. So Southern America will be another big growth area.
Cool, thank you. Have we got enough camping facilities for
in the region or in Hamilton?
in Hamilton alone? Because we've got one camping ground.
I would say no.
Yeah, okay.
And it's only because I work with holiday parks around looking at identifying future sites. And again, the camping experiences have changed. As you've seen, people they're moving more towards these top 10 holiday parks that actually provide full service and amenities for families. So I do see there'll be a great opportunity for Hamilton to have another one.
So what sort of market do they bring camping grounds? Do they bring like the van market?
A full mix. So what you get is you get the New Zealand Motor Van and Caravan Association, Motorhome and Caravan Association. So we have a lot of motorhomes that would start to use it. Yes, you would get some of your what we call responsible campers that potentially want to have 1 or 2 nights instead of basically camping free somewhere. But you'll also mainly get, as you've seen in the slide, 66% come into the region are actually domestic.
Right.
So these are families. And most holiday parks do offer what we call motel accommodation now, right through to just campsites. So they do offer full range of types of facilities available.
Okay, cool, thank you. When Te Awa is finally connected fully, have you got an action plan ready to go for that?
As in Te Awa,
the river
development? Oh, right, the river ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we obviously are working really hard. We're part of the Regional Cycling Network group, which has been meeting for the last 5 years around developing activities. So Martin Jenkins have just done a report to the cycling group around how to commercialise or activate some of the commercial opportunities on all our great rides, as well as the Te Awa River ride. So that's only got presented to the group last week. So we'll be going through that now to look at how we can make some of that happen.
Cool, thank you. The work that Jeff Turkington's doing with the cross-referencing between the gardens and the zoo, is that that's on your radar, isn't it?
Yes, it
You're
is.
working closely with them on that?
Absolutely. We are helping advise on some of that opportunity, what we're seeing out of the market.
It's really exciting, isn't it? And finally, the game changes, the major event strategy. We seem to have a glut of them around summer, like the Gardens Festival and balloons around the same time, and then there's this big woof in winter. Is that where you're putting your energies, or...?
Yeah, so correct. So I didn't provide you a full breakdown of the strategy, but the strategy is around what we call providing a full 12-month calendar which actually addresses seasonality. Any new major events we're looking to bring into the region, we do want to bring in what we call our off-season or our shoulder seasons. Apart from field days, which is our only major international event, the rest of our events are definitely in peak summer. So we're trying to create more events in what we call our spring, autumn, and definitely our winter months.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Smooth
Ryan.
fluctuation.
Thanks, Jason.
Chair, kia ora, Jason and Annabelle. Thanks for your report. Just a few questions. Airbnb. This is potentially good for the region, but is it cannibalistic on some of our commercial operators? What's the commentary there?
Correct. But touching on Councillor O'Leary's point, if the city is full, which is what we do see through some of our major events that we do have here, or through peak times like through field days, then actually what places like Airbnb, holiday homes and Book a Batch does do is actually fill that gap and that need. But we are working with, for off-peak, for example, when our universities are closed, we do have student accommodation, which is sitting there actually looking to be activated. So we are working with Wintech for their future developments and also for the university around filling and offering up lots of those student accommodation, which are self-catered, during major events like the Sevens. So even though Airbnb is currently there, it actually doesn't have too much of an impact on Hamilton right now. But we do need to, what I call, monitor the potential, because again, we would rather people stay in the city, which is the main part, in the heart of our CBD, because just because they're staying in a hotel, they'll also be out and about spending money on F&B and retail as well.
Sure. Okay, and you mentioned with that the commercial operators need to increase product size to compete with the Airbnb. What did you mean by that?
As in, keep enhancing their products themselves. So, for example, the upgrades of Distinction, Novotel Tainui, look, some of these products are 10 to 15 years old. The Kingsgate, as you probably know, was many decades old and was requiring a lot of investment. So to compete with what we call traveller expectations, which are even domestic ourselves, when we stay in a hotel, we do want to stay in a hotel with full amenities.
Yeah, sure.
So again, it's about making sure they keep evolving their products that actually meet the visitor demand of what we want. We want free Wi-Fi, we want 24-hour room service, we want a pool. People are quite demanding now with what we expect when we stay in hotel accommodation.
Also, this morning we learnt of a new hotel site in the, I think, Kira Foster's in the old Les Mills that's been consented but yet to be built, etc. Is this going to tick the box in terms of that hotel that we need, or is it part of the solution? Or?
I would say with hopefully the development and expansion of the old commercial hotel, the Sedema, the Novotel expansion of 40 rooms, we would still need 2 hotels of a 4-star quality to actually meet current demand.
So this won't be a silver bullet, this is just part of that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But a great part of it, because currently that's just adding new inventory to our stock,
Awesome.
rather
Thank
than
you.
cannibalising. Yeah.
Thanks. Rob, please.
Yeah, I'll try and keep this short. You will be pretty exhausted after all these questions. Welcome, Annabelle and Jason. Just on your performance targets, you mentioned the visitor nights were down by 1.1%. Is that 1.1% on your 5% increase target?
Correct for the year.
So in other words, you're up 3.9 on the previous year?
Correct.
And you're 1% ahead of the national growth of 2.9?
Correct.
Okay. Probably would have been a better way of selling it than the way you did, yeah. And the industry investment of 437,000, does that money come from tourist operators, specifically like Hobbiton and Waitomo Caves?
So it comes from a mix. So definitely our tourism operators are our main industry investors, but also accommodation. So you'll see Novotel Tainui are obviously regularly featured in regards to the industries that we profile. So accommodation, big hotels actually contribute to our industry investment as well, right through to small retailers who potentially are a retail operation or a food operation in a unique location.
And do they do that as part of an advertised target, as a part of a targeted advertising program? So is it kind of, I mean, I guess what I'm coming to is, do they actually put money into the tin that actually funds the tourism around the area, or is it specific to a particular campaign you're running, and Hobbiton gets an ad on the front page of that?
So it is a mix. So there's some of them will all buy into what we call a domestic marketing campaign. So we run short escapes or explore your own backyard for locals. So they will all just provide funding towards that based on different tiers, and we will actually create packages based on their investment, right through to you can literally, as an operator, buy a listing in our visitor guide with regards, so they will get direct benefit with regards to that. So there is a mix of campaigns.
So is it fair to say that your total income is the 1.2 million that you get from councils plus that 450,000?
Absolutely.
Is there scope to grow that $500,000, that 437,000?
Yep, so the board have reset a target to make it a bit more realistic for me, that I have to attract 450,000 this coming financial year, and then we would review that, because with the sector growing and visitor expenditure growing into the region, it was really clear it was around trying to get our operators to actually fund more. So, and we are starting to see that. So
is that a pessimistic, I mean, you know, should that be advanced out and pressure put on that should be $1 million or $1.5 million over a 3 or 5 year period, so that the industry is actually matching almost dollar for dollar what the councils are putting in, given that, you know, there's a kind of as much benefit for them as there is for the region? Or am I being too optimistic in terms of their generosity in putting that kind of money in?
I would say that was definitely optimistic. The reason being is our tourism operators or experiences aren't growing. I'm not getting 4 or 5 new hotels opening across the region every year that I need to fill. I'm not getting 4 or 5 new major tourism attractions opening. But again, in 5 years' time, who knows? You know, look, we've got lots of developments coming for the region. So I think once we get some more operators and experiences up and running, then potentially there is an opportunity to then look at increased funding. But for now, I would say for the next 2 to 3 years will be.
And just one last question, which follows on from Chair Dave's comment earlier on. Have you sensed or been signalled from some of those private operators or from other councils a desire to remove Hamilton from the name Hamilton Waikato Tourism?
I don't think it's about a desire to remove Hamilton. I think it would be around
the name Hamilton more so, yeah.
The name Hamilton.
Yeah, the name of Hamilton and Hamilton Waikato Tourism, as opposed to removing us out of the involvement completely.
Yeah, no. So around the name, I think, look, for us, it is going to be around, and we will start to look at that. Who are we as an organisation? Look, we're called Hamilton and Waikato Tourism right now. As you probably learnt today, and as I've shared before, we don't just do tourism. We're moving into major event coordination. We do destination management and development, and we also do business events. So for us, look, even our name right now doesn't truly reflect the business we're in. So we are probably more of a destination agency. So whether we move towards renaming ourselves to Destination Waikato or eventually, because we do represent the region, but I think for us it is first up just looking at who we are and what we do, because again, we don't push our organisation name. It's not the forefront, it's actually the region. It's just because we are called Hamilton Waikato Tourism and I'm sitting here, that's not what we go out and market with very much. It is going to be around the Waikato, and that Hamilton is part of that. Hamilton is what we call the hub when it comes to visiting our region. So that's currently where we work.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks a lot, Jason and Annabelle. Appreciate your time. We better keep moving. But thanks for the presentation too. It's great again. Look, councillors, we're just going to follow the agenda as set out because we no longer have any outside people. It's going to be easier to do that. So we're going to move straight to the Gordonton. Oh, yeah, sorry. I moved that we receive it, seconded by Gary. Those in favour, against, carried. Thanks. To item 12, Gordonton Thomas Road intersection, the progress update from Robin. Oh, Chris, yes. So why is they should have put your name down, Chris. That's on page 139, everyone. Thanks.
Good afternoon, councillors. For those who don't know me, I'm Chris Barton, Capital Projects Manager. So I'm just here to give you a quick update on the upgrade of the Thomas Gordonton intersection. So as you're all aware, it's been the site of some significant safety issues, and so we're in the process of getting underway with a significant upgrade of that intersection. We're on track to commence that in October this year. This report here seeks a couple of pieces of enabling works to get underway with that project. So we've got require a lease of some land to relocate a driveway which is affected by the intersection upgrade, and also to engage with WELL to undertake some electrical service relocations as well. So other than that, I'll propose to take the report as read and happy to take any questions.
And the cost of the WELL network relocation there fits within the budget that we've already had of the project?
Correct.
Yep. Okay, questions to Gary first, then Mark.
Thank you. Who is CDL Land New Zealand Limited? They just happen to be the owner of that bit of land we need, is it?
Correct, yes. So
what are they?
They're a property development company.
Oh, okay. And we want them to lease us the land for 12, how long is it?
Page 144 in the plan there, the green.
So we've worked with CDL to, and they've offered a peppercorn lease of the site moving forward. So, yeah.
You want to be careful of your rent increases though, eh?
2 peppercorns.
Okay, thank you. No, I just want to know who they were. They're property developers, are they? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, and that area there is R2, which is the bit we've talked about for the future coming in. No, more like 5. Okay, sorry, Mark.
Happy to move it, Dave, if that's all right.
Yep.
But no, actually, Gary's asked my question. So that's that driveway just halfway before you get to the red strip. Basically, you are erecting there. Understand?
Yeah, correct.
Just on the giveaways to the left and to the left, on page 144, the diagram there. Yep. They're not signalised, other than just giveaways.
Sorry,
correct.
Mark, we didn't quite hear what you were saying.
Oh, sorry. Yes, my mic technique's terrible. I know. Yeah, the slipways. Is that right? They're not signalised by turning arrows, are they?
No, I don't. No, they're not.
Okay. No, that's it for me. Yes, apart from the dates. So October 1, spades go in the ground, and October 10, the speed limit pending a council meeting.
Yes, correct.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. So leading up to that October 1st date, we are undertaking enabling work. So there are works happening on site, but that's when the main intersection construction is planned to commence.
And you're expecting to have it done by Christmas?
That's the current program, yes.
Great. Ho, ho, ho.
So Councillor Marks moved the recommendation 4A and B, and James has seconded it. Sorry, Leo, I'm not looking, sorry.
Good question. Going to page 144, I'm a little bit confused, where you've got only one traffic signal, is that correct?
No. Sorry, what are you referring to?
Well, if I look at the paddock, just by the intersection, got installation of traffic signals, okay, which is only indicated on one leg of the intersection.
So Yeah, I think it's just a drawing notation issue, but there will obviously be signal poles scattered around the
whole three of them?
intersection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Signalising all legs.
Are they, just on that, Chris, are they going to be the gantry ones hanging out over the road or just something smaller on the side?
I haven't got those details with me right now. I know we have been doing some work on the final details of the signal poles and how that works with the, obviously the overhead power lines in that area as well, so that's driving part of that. I haven't got those details with me, but I can provide those
Can we
if
make
required.
a plea for where at all possible they do that? Because with traffic coming down the hill and coming up and round the corner, seeing them from as far away as possible is going to be an advantage. But I understand if you can shift those power lines, get them underground, then we've got less of a problem like that.
Yeah, so I'll check up on that one. I just don't have those details with me right now, sorry.
Thanks, Chris. Do you have any more, Leo?
I'm still a little bit confused, actually. I notice you've got a primary one, but I don't see a secondary one. I presume there will be a secondary one, will there?
Correct, there'll be, primary on the first giveaway and then a secondary on the downstream leg.
We can maybe send around when you've got the real details close up of the intersection and the installations there.
Yep.
There's a lot of interest in with 170,000 traffic engineers in the city.
That's right.
Anyone else? No. Okay, I'll put the resolution that we've got. All those in favour, against, carried. Thanks. We already had it moved and seconded there. Thanks very much, Chris. So we're on to, let's do 2 more. Because I can see a whole lot of people came down excited to talk about signage with us. So, Chris, let's do the encroachment licence.
Yes, so page 140.
Telling us why we're putting it off.
Yep, so page 147, councillors.
Yep.
So this has been an ongoing issue for us. It was discussed when we talked about the agenda this morning. So I've asked the chair if we could receive the report but defer a decision until the next Growth and Infrastructure Committee. It's quite a contentious issue between the neighbours out there. I thought we had agreement, but we haven't quite got agreement. But I'm hopeful or confident that by the time of the next committee meeting that we will have agreement. So it's item 13, page 147.
Yes, it's item 13, and the motion is going to be that the Growth and Infrastructure Committee receives the report and defers the item for further consideration on, sorry?
To the next meeting, yep.
October the 23rd. So that's going to be the resolution, Gary, that comes out of the delay. So I've got questions from Martin first, who has no conflict of interest because he told us that.
I don't, obviously, just, so basically you're saying, I think it's good, the section, you're going to go back to both parties to see if we can join up and have a common understanding between the owner of the property and the immediate neighbours. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. Presumably next month we can have a wider discussion in broader terms around the whole issue of how we handle in future the interface between a private property issue and our public reserve status. And I think obviously because bearing in mind that for a range of reasons there's been a high fence there for a couple of years. Just seems to me, Mr. Allen, we need to resolve how we deal with these types of issues in future.
Let's ask staff to include that
Just
in the
include
report.
That, because I think
I don't really want a discussion on policy
not at all,
in that
but
area
if we could actually, I'm just giving flagging, not to do with that specific issue, but it raises the broader issue, Mr. Chair.
It was raised last time it came to the meeting, that exact issue, and staff did acknowledge it, but perhaps if they could address it in the report.
Absolutely, no, that's fine, thank you.
Yep. So, by the way, I'll move this and Jeff will second it. Yeah, no, just calm down, stay calm. I was just saying I'm moving it and Jeff will second it and we'll go to Paula for the question.
Just a bit of information I'd like to help me with this when it comes back, if I may, which is there any guidance or precedent around encroachment onto public land in other circumstances? And if there is, I'd like to know a little bit more about that. Or could this in itself create precedent for encroachment on public land. Just would like to understand more about that, if I may. You don't need to answer that now, but it's something I need to
Yep.
fully understand.
I can answer that now. So we've got lots of examples of this where structures, and they're normally in the form of retaining walls, etc., are in the road reserve, and we deal with them through encroachment licences. So there's lots of precedents already. So this is just another one.
So this is going to be the wall, part of the garden and wall, but not part of the actual development itself, the private.
So the issue here, there's two issues. One is the developer is proposing to put a private stairway up in the road reserve. So there's a structure in there. He also has a minor encroachment of a retaining wall on his property into the structure. Now, that's reasonably common for us, and we do have precedent for retaining walls in there. Ideally, that shouldn't happen. It has happened in this place, and we're looking to formalise it through a licence to occupy.
So it's already happened?
It's already happened. If our proposal would be, if we can't get resolution on the stairway, that we would still look to just formalise the retaining wall encroachment, which is innocuous.
Sorry, look, I'm not going to enable a discussion on the detail of this because it's coming back to us because we don't have a proposal to settle it yet. That's been agreed by enough parties, but questions of process really. So the motion is up on the board, receive the report and defer the report for consideration at the 23rd of October meeting of this committee. So, no, we're deferring it as well. We're receiving it and deferring it. So I've moved it, seconded by Jeff. Any speakers to it? Not. Those in favour, say aye. Those against, no. That's carried, thanks. Right, and we're on to Hamilton City Guide signage, which I understand, is there a map?
Yes.
Oh, there's some lovely maps being brought around, and Dawn is very excited about them. It's also on OneDrive, which Gary is very excited about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second.
Thanks. We've had, so that's
Given that we've already had a briefing on this.
yeah, we've had a briefing. There's been a little bit of change in some of the details which people are welcome to ask about, but at the end of that we had a whole lot of suggestions come in.
And we'll have a whole lot more today too.
I'm afraid we were likely to. But the reason we got this map presented, guys, is so you can see approximately what the sign is going to look like at the point, or close to the point where it's showing on the map. So if you're coming from... Eh? I can, but you can't, clearly. So we're on the map here, and you can see what you'll see coming in from the north, for instance, with the two directions at the top of Te Rapa, I guess that's called, Northern Interchange. So we've got questions from councillors in relation to the staff recommendation, which has been moved by Rob, seconded by Leo, on page 154. If there aren't any questions, that's great. I'm not going to encourage them. Oh, does Leo? Okay. No takers? Oh, Ryan.
One quick one. Just to clarify, on the motion, that RR thing, I just want to make sure if we're signing off on that sign, is that the one that's got the R?
Which number, which motion?
Sorry. The Shield logo, D.
D, 3D.
Just want to check we're all agreeing to the same picture so they're not... So that's the HR Shield, is it?
Through you, Mr Chair, that's the one item we would like some guidance from council, please, whether they prefer HR or R.
Where's that in the resolution?
Item D.
No, where's that in the resolution?
D.
D, the Shield logo?
Yes, but it doesn't specify which letters.
No, because we're
Okay.
wanting that guidance
So
from you, please.
thanks for raising the point, Ryan, because that's we might just have a quick discussion about that and include whichever lettering we want in D, or which is proposed. And look, I'll propose that the letter be H, in the shield, approve the shield logo with the letter H for the Hamilton Ring Road. I'll just briefly explain, because I think when you look at the HR, as you're sort of driving past, it's more difficult to read than the R down there is also something I think that's been used in Christchurch. The H is unique to Hamilton and will stand out. So I'm proposing that that be a single letter in black on the white shield, H.
So just for consideration in that, our only concern with H is that the HPMV, the heavy high productivity motor vehicles, have H's on them, and we would hate to have any confusion by truck drivers thinking that this is a route for them specifically. So that's just something to put on the table to be considered.
Sorry?
Could I make a suggestion, or are you still going?
Well, I just did want to say that it was a pity that wasn't raised before with us, but I still think that the whole of the ring road is an HP allowed route as far as I understand it anyway, so it's not going to be that confusing, I wouldn't think. And I think that in terms of people finding their way around the city, that's the purpose of the ring road. But Mark, you can...
Yeah, I just think maybe we should be a bit more with what people call it anyway, because the shield is a little bit sort of administrative. I just think RR or ring road, because everyone calls it the ring road. H kind of, with greatest respect, doesn't sort of say Hamilton Ring Road at all, even if it was HRR, At risk, I don't want to get into a big
the purpose of signs is roadside signs is that you can read them easily. So
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Not if you have HRR, they're sure as hell not going to be able to read it.
What about that then? At risk of looking like a great designer, but it's got a ring around an H, so it's a Hamilton ring.
Jesus Christ!
Granted, it looks like a helipad, but
Oh, I can't. Well, I can't see it from here, so it's not going to be any good. But look, hey, Lee, I don't want to have huge long discussion about this. There's two. I think people generally agreed a letter that stands out in the background, either an H or an R. I want a straw vote, then I'll incorporate that in the motion. You can then vote or speak for it. So who favours the R? Raise their hands. Two. And you don't have to vote. One. What? But Paula, were you voting or not? You don't have to. You don't have, I'm not going to have a discussion. 1, 2, 3. Who favours the H? Who favours the H?
Sorry, Dave, was that first one for that?
Jesus Christ.
Or throw yourself around as much as you like, but was that the first one was for that R, or was it for a clear H and a clear R?
It's a straw vote on whether you want something like you can see the R, either that R or an H, not what's above it, just a single letter.
So the options are an H
or an R.
Or an R by itself.
Councillors, this is a straw vote. I'm not having a discussion. All right. Okay, hang on. I'm calling off the meeting until we'll have afternoon tea. Sorry, we need a coffee, and then we'll have the discussion. Because if councillors, no, I'm not having discussion. I've called off the meeting. But we'll come back after morning tea in about 12 minutes, and we'll have that discussion then. That vote. And if you're unsure what a straw vote is and what the difference between H and an R, you're welcome to come up and I'll explain it to you.
Thank you.